Imagine walking into a crowded room. The sound of laughter bounces off the walls, glasses clink, and conversations overlap into a kind of chaotic harmony. On the surface, it looks simple. People smiling, people talking, people connecting. But pause for a moment. Look closer. Notice the subtle shifts, the way someone's smile lingers just a second too long, as if rehearsed. The way another person's eyes dart around the room, searching for approval or perhaps escape. The way someone tells a joke, not because it's funny, but because they fear silence. Suddenly, the room changes. What you thought was natural becomes a performance. Every gesture, every laugh, every carefully chosen word is part of a hidden play. Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote, "Every profound spirit needs a mask." He wasn't speaking metaphorically, he meant it. To exist in society, to interact with others, we all wear masks, disguises for our fears, our desires, our vulnerabilities. Masks protect us, but they also deceive others. They keep us safe, but they also make us strangers to one another. The truth is, human beings are not transparent. They're opaque, layered, and often contradictory. We rarely reveal our truest selves, not even to the people closest to us. And yet, beneath those masks lies everything that truly matters. Our wounds, our secret longings. Now imagine just for a moment that you had the ability to see through those masks, to pierce the social performance and glimpse the truth of what someone is really feeling, really thinking, really hiding. What would you do with that power? Would you use it to protect yourself? To manipulate others? To deepen your relationships? Or would it frighten you to suddenly realize just how fragile, conflicted, and desperate most people really are?
Ow.
Because here's the uncomfortable truth. We are not who we appear to be. The confident speaker may be crippled by insecurity. The quiet listener may be calculating, strategizing, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Nietzsche believed that masks were not accidents of social behavior, they were necessities. He saw human beings as actors on a stage, each playing roles designed to survive, to gain power, to belong. And if the world is a theater, then psychology is the script. But here's the paradox. While masks hide, they also reveal. Every mask leaves cracks, and through those cracks, the truth seeps out. The nervous twitch, the forced laugh, the exaggerated story, these are not random details. They are leaks in the performance, clues, signs. If you know how to look, if you know what to listen for, you can begin to read people instantly. This is the invitation. To step behind the curtain of appearances. To see people not as they want to be seen, but as they truly are. The journey is not comfortable. In fact, it can be unsettling, because once you learn to see through masks, you can never unsee them. Nietzsche himself was obsessed with this problem. He believed that most truths were unbearable in their raw form, so humans invented lies, illusions, and performances to make life tolerable. Masks, in his philosophy, were not just social tools, they were survival strategies. But Nietzsche also hinted at something darker, that those who can read behind the masks hold a dangerous kind of knowledge. And that's what this series is about. 18 psychological truths, uncomfortable, revealing, and timeless. Each truth is a window into the hidden world of human motives. Some will explain why we lie even when we don't need to. Others will reveal why we envy, why we sabotage, why we love people who hurt us, why we sometimes destroy ourselves. If you're ready, this is where the game begins. The game of masks. Because the question is not whether people wear masks. The question is, can you see through them? Before Freud dreamed of the unconscious, before Jung spoke of archetypes, there was Friedrich Nietzsche, a man often mistaken for just a philosopher, when in reality he was something more unsettling, a psychologist of the soul. Nietzsche was not the typical intellectual hero. He was sickly, plagued by migraines, stomach pain, and failing eyesight. He lived much of his life in isolation, with few friends, often wandering the streets alone, a notebook always within reach. Yet from this loneliness, he sharpened an almost surgical ability to dissect human motives. He stared at the undercurrents of human behavior long enough to see what most of us try to avoid, that beneath noble ideals, people are often driven by darker, hidden forces. Where others saw morality, Nietzsche saw vanity. Where others saw piety, Nietzsche saw fear. Where others saw justice, Nietzsche saw resentment. This is why some call him the first true psychologist. He was less interested in lofty abstractions and more obsessed with what actually drives people, the subtle mechanics of pride, envy, ambition, and survival. He became, in a sense, the original profiler. Reading through the surface stories people told and exposing the raw instincts underneath, take his view of morality. Most people believe they act from kindness or principle. Nietzsche argued otherwise. He saw morality as a mask, a socially useful story people tell to disguise their hunger for power, their desire for belonging, or their fear of punishment. He dismantled religion in the same way as his divine truth, more as a psychological strategy humans invented to endure suffering and impose control. What made Nietzsche so dangerous and so brilliant was his refusal to look away. He didn't soften his conclusions to make them palatable. He insisted that to understand humanity, we must face its most uncomfortable truths, that envy fuels compassion, that weakness disguises itself as morality, that even love can be a battle for possession. Nietzsche's work was radical, not because it was cynical, but because it was honest. He described humans as layered beings, masks on top of masks. As stories piled on stories, yet underneath it all, he believed, was the raw drive for power, survival, and self-overcoming. This is why Nietzsche matters here. If we want to learn to read people instantly, to see beyond the polished surface of behavior, then Nietzsche is our guide. He is not giving us comforting wisdom. He is handing us sharp tools that cut away illusions and expose motives. For Freud, before Jung, Nietzsche was already mapping the hidden terrain of the human soul. And it is through his lens, the lens of a dark psychologist, that we will uncover the 18 truths about human nature. Section 3. Truth number 1 to 6. The masks of human nature, the game of masks, begins here. Nietzsche's first insights strike at the heart of human behavior: deception, performance, concealment. Each truth is not meant to flatter us, but to expose us. In once seen, these truths make it impossible to look at people the same way again. Truth number 1. People lie to themselves before they lie to others. Nietzsche wrote that self-deception is humanity's most common art. Why? Because the easiest person to fool is yourself. Think of the man who insists he is happy in a loveless marriage, or the worker who convinces herself she loves her job while resenting every Monday morning. The lie is not crafted for others, it's crafted for survival. To face reality directly would be too painful. This is why Nietzsche warned, before judging anyone else's lies, recognize the lies they tell themselves. Reading people, look for contradictions. When words and emotions don't align, the mask is slipping. A forced smile, a quick deflection, a laugh that doesn't touch the eyes. These are signals that the person is wrestling with a truth they cannot admit, even to themselves. Truth number 2. Morality is often a mask for power. We like to think morality comes from noble principles. Nietzsche disagreed. He saw morality as a battlefield of power. One group's attempt to control another through rules, guilt, and social shame. History offers countless examples. When the medieval church preached humility, it wasn't only about virtue, it was a way to keep peasants obedient. When corporations today promote loyalty or family culture, it often disguises a demand for sacrifice and control. Reading people. When someone speaks with excessive moral certainty, condemning others, posturing as righteous, ask yourself, what do they gain from this stance? Often morality is less about truth and more about leverage. Truth number 3. Even kindness is rarely free from hidden motives. Acts of kindness appear pure. Yet Nietzsche urged us to look closer. Is generosity always selfless? Or does it sometimes carry hidden motives, desire for recognition, guilt, superiority, or even subtle manipulation? Consider the philanthropist who donates millions, but ensures their name is carved into every building. or the friend who helps but later reminds you of your debt. Nietzsche's claim was not that kindness doesn't exist, but that it is rarely untouched by hidden threads of self-interest. Reading people, pay attention to the after of kindness. Does the giver expect gratitude, loyalty, or repayment? True motives often reveal themselves not in the act itself, but in what follows. Truth number 4. People perform more than they live. Nietzsche believed humans were natural actors. Society demands roles: student, worker, leader, friend, so we perform them, often more diligently than we live authentically. Think of social media: curated images of happiness, staged moments of intimacy, choreographed lives. But this performance is not unique to the digital age, it is timeless. Even in Nietzsche's era, he saw politicians, priests, and intellectuals rehearsing personas as carefully as actors on a stage. Reading people, ask yourself, who are they performing for? The applause they sequester from a boss, a partner, or an audience online? Online often reveals what they fear most: rejection, insignificance, or failure. Resentment wears the mask of virtue. Nietzsche coined the term resentiment, a festering envy and bitterness that disguises itself as morality. But underneath, it may be envy of what they cannot have, or someone who praises humility, but only because they themselves lack the power to rise. Resentment, Nietzsche argued, is morality's shadow. It dresses up envy as justice, bitterness as principle. Reading people, watch for overzealous critiques. When someone obsesses over the flaws of others, ask, what wound is this hiding? Often, resentment reveals more about the speaker's pain than the target's flaws. Truth number 6. Contradictions reveal the person behind the mask. Nietzsche believed truth leaks out through inconsistency. A person may claim to love peace, but explode in rage at small inconveniences. Another may preach honesty while bending rules when convenient. The contradiction is not an accident. It is the keyhole into the hidden self. Nietzsche urged us to study not what people claim, but the tension between what they say and what they do. Reading people, when faced with contradictions, don't dismiss them, magnify them. Contradictions are cracks in the mask, glimpses into the unspoken reality. The mask collection taken together, these 6 truths form a sobering picture of human behavior. We lie first to ourselves. We weaponize morality. We mix kindness with hidden motives. We perform instead of live. We disguise resentment as virtue. And we reveal ourselves in contradictions. Each truth shows us not how rare masks are, but how universal. Nietzsche did not see these as flaws of the few, but as the operating system of humanity itself. The question is not who wears masks, but which masks, and how well. And this is where the skill of reading people begins. If you can see the cracks, the inconsistencies, the quiet tells behind the performance, you gain an advantage Nietzsche himself called dangerous: the ability to see people as they really are. The first 6 truths revealed the masks people wear, but behind the masks lies something deeper: forces that drive human behavior with far more intensity than kindness or principle ever could. Nietzsche called this the will to power, the fundamental desire not just to live, but to shape, dominate, and control. What follows are 6 uncomfortable truths about the engines hidden inside every soul. Even the most ordinary conversation is rarely neutral. People assert dominance in subtle ways: interrupting, controlling the rhythm, withholding approval, using silence as a weapon. Think of a meeting at work. 2 colleagues debate a project. On the surface, it's about ideas. Beneath the surface, it's about who gets the last word, who leaves the room respected, who walks away diminished. Reading people, watch dynamics, not just words. Who interrupts whom? Who seeks validation? Who avoids eye contact? These micro-movements reveal who holds power and who is scrambling for it. Truth number 8. Anger reveals what the mask hides. Polite society trains us to smile, nod, and agree. But Nietzsche believed that anger is the moment when masks break. In rage, people reveal their deepest wounds, their fears of being humiliated, ignored, or powerless. Think of a politician caught in scandal. Calm at first, but as pressure builds, the mask slips. Reading people, if you want to know someone's core fear, don't study their calm moments. Watch what makes them furious. Anger is the shadow speaking openly. Truth number 9. Envy is the most honest emotion, unlike love or loyalty. Envy cannot be faked. Nietzsche believed envy was the rawest signal of what people truly desire, but cannot attain. The colleague who downplays your success, the friend who offers faint praise, the stranger who mocks ambition, they are giving themselves away. History offers vivid examples. Rival poets, rival generals, rival siblings all revealed more truth in envy than in any speech. Shakespeare's Iago, fueled by envy, saw more clearly than anyone else in Othello. Reading people, notice sarcasm, dismissiveness, subtle digs. Envy is rarely admitted, but it always leaks through. Spotting envy is spotting the X-ray of hidden desire. Truth number 10. Revenge is more seductive than justice. Nietzsche distrusted lofty words like justice. Too often, he believed what people call justice is simply revenge dressed in moral clothing. Consider how personal relationships often end. Betrayal doesn't just spark grief, it sparks fantasies of payback. In courtrooms, in politics, even in family disputes, people often want not balance but retribution. Reading people. When someone insists they only want fairness, ask yourself, are they seeking balance or are they craving revenge? The language of justice is often camouflage for the hunger to retaliate. But Nietzsche argued that when principle collides with desire, desire almost always wins. The leader who preaches honesty may lie to preserve power. The lover who vows fidelity may betray when temptation burns hot enough. Nietzsche did not call this hypocrisy. People are not guided by ideals, but by impulses in the stories they invent afterward to justify them. Reading people. When analyzing someone, ask not what principles they say they follow, but what desires actually move them. The dissonance between words and action is where their real self lives. Truth number 12. The shadow self cannot be destroyed, only hidden. Nietzsche anticipated what Jung would later call the shadow, the collection of impulses people deny and bury, the rage they suppress, the lust they condemn in others, the cruelty they pretend not to feel. But the shadow never disappears, it waits, festers, and eventually seeps out in distorted ways. Look at history's most moral leaders, the priests, politicians, gurus, exposed in scandal. The more rigid the mask of virtue, the more violently the shadow bursts through. Reading people. Pay attention to overcompensation. When someone condemns others obsessively for lust, greed, or pride, it often signals the very desire they're hiding. The shadow projects itself outward. The engine's beneath the mask. These 6 truths strip away illusions of civility. Every conversation, every argument, every relationship is shaped by hidden engines' power. Anger, envy, revenge, desire, and the shadow self. Nietzsche never argued that these forces made humans evil. Instead, he insisted that they made us real. To see them, however, is to possess an uncanny ability. To recognize when the shadow speaks, when envy leaks, when the hunger for control outweighs every moral claim. This is the darker level of reading people. Because once you recognize these engines, you'll never again believe that words alone tell the truth. You'll know that behind every calm face and every polished mask, a shadow is always moving. Section 5. Truth number 13 to 18. Freedom, fear, and the abyss. The first 12 truths uncovered masks and shadow impulses. But Nietzsche saved his most unsettling insights for the deepest layer, the truths that govern not just how we act, but why we exist. These final 6 truths confront freedom, fear, and the abyss. Truth number 13. Most people fear freedom more than slavery. We think freedom is humanity's highest goal. Nietzsche disagreed. He argued that true freedom is terrifying because it demands responsibility. It means creating your own values instead of obeying someone else's. History proves this. Revolutions begin with cries of freedom, but soon after, people crave order, structure, and authority to tell them what to do. Even today, many prefer the comfort of rules, ideologies, and traditions over the chaos of deciding for themselves. Reading people. Notice how quickly someone seeks external approval. The person who cannot make choices without validation is not chasing freedom, they are escaping it. Truth number 14. Conformity is the most seductive mask. Nietzsche believed that the crowd is always safer than the individual. People dress, speak, and think like those around them, not because it's true, but because it's less frightening. Look at fashion trends, political slogans, social media opinions that spread like wildfire. The comfort is not in the belief itself, it's in belonging. To be accepted by the herd feels safer than the risk of standing alone. Reading people. When someone's opinions always mirror their group, don't mistake it for conviction. It is often fear disguised as agreement. Truth number 15. Tradition is the refuge of the Friedrich Nietzsche saw tradition, not as wisdom, but as security. People cling to rituals, customs, and inherited values because it spares them from confronting uncertainty. Consider how many defend traditions without questioning them: religious ceremonies, cultural practices, even family rituals. Tradition is not always about truth. It is about continuity, a buffer against the abyss of change. Reading people. Watch how people invoke the way it's always been. The fiercer the defense of tradition, the deeper the fear of losing ground beneath their feet. Truth number 16. Fear of the abyss shapes. Every decisionist's most haunting idea was that beneath all masks lies the abyss, a terrifying possibility that life has no fixed meaning. To confront this abyss directly is rare, almost unbearable. So, people construct stories, beliefs, and distractions to avoid staring into it. From religion promising salvation, to careers promising purpose, to relationships promising permanence, each is, in some sense, defense against the abyss. Reading people. Notice what someone clings to most desperately. That is their shield against emptiness. Remove it, and their deepest fear is revealed. Truth number 17. What people fear losing reveals who they are. Nietzsche believed. Identity is not defined by what people claim, but by what they fear to lose. For one, it may be status. For another, love. For another, faith. Think of leaders who crumble when stripped of power, or lovers who unravel when abandoned. In these moments, their true center is exposed to not what they told the world, but what they could not live without. Reading people. When someone panics at loss, you are seeing their truest self. To know what a person loves, study what they fear losing. Truth number 18. Death is the final mascot. The heart of Nietzsche's psychology lies the inevitability of death. He argued that much of human behavior, our striving for legacy, our need for recognition, even our pursuit of loves, shaped by denial of mortality. Monuments, books, children, reputations, these are not just achievements, but attempts to live beyond death. Nietzsche believed that, until we face mortality honestly, we cannot understand why humans chase power, safety, or meaning. Reading people. When someone obsesses over legacy, reputation, or permanence, it is death whispering beneath their mask. The final abyss. Taken together, these last truths expose the ultimate engine of human behavior. Fear. Not just fear of others, but fear of freedom, of meaninglessness, of death itself. Nietzsche warned that most people will never face these fears directly. Instead, they hide behind conformity, tradition, morality, or ideology, but for those who dare to see. The abyss is not only terror, it is liberation. Because once you understand what people fear losing, once you see how they build their lives to avoid emptiness, you can read them with eerie clarity. The climax of Nietzsche's psychology is existential. Masks and shadows are not accidents, but survival strategies against the void, and to pierce them, to see through to the abysses, to glimpse the soul itself. We've walked through Nietzsche's 18 truths: masks, power, shadows, fears, but to stop there would be to leave them in the 19th century. The real test is here now, in our world of digital masks, political theater, and corporate storytelling. Nietzsche's psychology is not a relic. It is a magnifying glass for the present. The age of infinite masks. Nietzsche saw humans as actors on a stage. Today the stage has multiplied. We live in the age of curated identities, Instagram feeds, LinkedIn profiles, influencer personas, dating app bios, each one a mask designed to impress, to conceal. To sell, think of the endless smiling selfies, the carefully crafted captions. Beneath them, the same old contradictions. Loneliness beneath confidence. Envy beneath celebration. Fear beneath perfection. Nietzsche warned that people perform more than they live. The digital age has made that performance relentless. Reading people, look not at the polished image, but at what it tries too hard to hide. The louder the display of confidence, the more fragile the ego often is beneath it. Politics, as Theodor Nietzsche once said, morality was a mask for power. Today, politics makes this truth glaring. Speeches about justice, freedom, or unity often conceal the real currency: votes, influence, control. Watch a debate, and you'll see less reasoned dialogue than performance art. Staged outrage, choreographed empathy, weaponized morality. The politician's mask is rarely about truth. It is about persuasion, reading people. Don't be distracted by slogans. Watch body language, tone, and contradictions. Who interrupts? Who avoids questions? Who masks fear with outrage? The performance reveals more than the words. The marketplace of manipulation Akaz argued that even kindness is rarely free of hidden motives. Modern advertising proves him right. Every friendly brand voice, every We Care campaign hides the drive for profit. When a company tells you they are your family, Nietzsche would smirk, because families don't ask for your credit card. The corporate mask is subtle, but it follows the same logic as ancient morality. Comfort you, guide you, make you believe, but always extract something in return. Reading people. Ask, what do they gain from making me feel this way? Every act of persuasion carries a hidden transaction. Relationships and the shadow self masks are not only public, they live in intimacy. To not think of the friend who laughs while secretly competing with you, or the partner who insists on loyalty while hiding betrayal. Nietzsche's insights into envy, desire, and the shadow self are not abstract, they play out in every human bond. In relationships, the most revealing moments come not in calm conversation, but in anger, jealousy, and fear. Just as Nietzsche predicted, people reveal themselves when their masks crack under pressure. Reading people, pay attention to the shadow. Watch what people condemn most loudly, often mirrors what they hide within. The responsibility of seeing her is the paradox Nietzsche leaves us with. Once you learn to see through masks, you cannot unsee them. The skill is empowering, but it can also be unsettling. You begin to notice the envy in compliments, the manipulation in kindness, the fear in confidence. What do you do with this power? Nietzsche never offered an easy answer, but he warned against cynicism. To see the shadows is not to despise humanity, is to understand it. Reading people instantly is not about exposing them, humiliating them, or weaponizing their fears. It is about moving through life with clarity. It's about protecting yourself from illusions, about forging more honest connections. Because in the end, Nietzsche's dark psychology is not just about others. The lies we tell, the masks we wear, the shadows we bury, to see others clearly is also to confront our own abyss, the final curtain. Modern world is a theater of masks, digital, political, personal. But Nietzsche handed us a lens to see through it. He showed us that lies begin with the self, that morality disguises power, that envy exposes desire, that fear of the abyss shapes everything. Once you see this, the performance changes. The masks no longer fool you. The theater becomes transparent, and the haunting question remains. If you can see through everyone else's mask, will you dare to remove your own? Section 7. Conclusion. The dangerous gift of seeing too much room is crowded again. Voices overlap. Laughter ripples across the air. Faces beam. Glasses clink. Jokes fly. To anyone else, it looks warm, ordinary, familiar. But not to you, not anymore. Once you've walked through Nietzsche's 18 truths, innocence is gone. What looks like a harmless smile is suddenly tinged with envy. What sounds like moral conviction is revealed as a bid for power. What feels like kindness now carries the faint shadow of hidden desire. You see the mask? This is the dangerous gift Nietzsche warned about. To pierce illusion is to forfeit comfort. Most people don't want to see too much. They cling to surfaces, to appearances, to the little lies that make life smoother. They accept the masks because the truth beneath them is too heavy, too unsettling. But you dared to look deeper. Isolation and liberation. Nietzsche called it the fate of the philosopher, to be apart, to stand outside the crowd, to notice what others cannot bear to notice. Seeing too deeply can isolate you. It can make laughter feel hollow, conversations feel staged, even relationships feel like fragile performances. And yet, within that isolation lies freedom. When the veil is torn away, you are no longer fooled. You can move through life with a clarity others don't possess. You can step outside the endless theater of masks and ask, what is real? What is authentic? Who am I when the performance ends? The danger of seeing too much is also its liberation. The power to live without illusion. Return to that crowded room, to the smiles, the laughter, the warmth of company. Now look again. Can you see the flicker of envy in the corner of someone's eyes? The nervous performance in another's exaggerated cheerfulness? The desperate hunger in the one who talks the loudest? You are no longer watching people, you are reading them. Every word, every pause, every contradiction tells you a story. This is Nietzsche's gift and his curse. And now comes the question he leaves us with, the one that lingers long after the theater closes. If you can see through everyone else's mask, will you dare to remove your own? Because in the end, the hardest person to read is not the stranger, not the lover, not the politician. It is yourself. Beneath your words, your kindness, your convictions, what shadows move? What fears drive you? What abyss do you refuse to face? The room grows quiet, the crowd fades. A mirror stands before you. Look closely. Do you see the mask, or do you see the truth?